Oh, yes. Now, the Queen of Sheba, all her desire? Yeah. Now, in verse 14, now the weight of gold that came to Solomon one year was 600 threescore and 6 talents of gold. 666. Oh, that's interesting because that's the number of the beast. Yes. 666. Oh. Now, obviously, Solomon didn't know about the book of Revelation at that time. But let's say certain numbers did affect me as an individual and you decided to give me, $666 billion. I'd say, well, that's from the devil. Now, what if it was 665 billion? Pooh. Mm-mm. Now, I've heard there's some families that have a tremendous amount of assets. Yes. And when I find out that my sons are being exploited because of the fraud of Clallam County, yes. And then I spent 16 months going to court, yes. And then I find out that the superintendent is enriching herself, the coach is enriching themselves, and they're all getting paid for shows because you had to entertain whom? Let's see, the dogs. Is that right? We decided that we were going to use our creativity, yes, to make funny shows for dogs that were not actual persons. Oh, and you were going to make lookalikes of American citizens. Oh, now let's say I decided that I really wanted to sue some families, and there are a few of those that have some controlling interests in various types of investments. Yes. Now, I know that if you're in a family that I'm going to sue, yes, you probably have some sort of money manager. You might work with a brokerage. Yes. Could you give me the actual brokerages in this nation and every nation of the world that has a stock market? Yes. I'd like to know what software they're using for their trading. Yes. Now, the individuals that own the brokerages that have the actual licensing to be able to employ brokers to make investments, yes, for families. Why don't you get me every series? 7. Ooh, 3. 24. Oh. And all the registered representatives, yeah, call the SEC. Now, yesterday I was looking through these emails. Yeah, there was a little $150 billion lawsuit involving FINRA, yes, the SEC, and the individuals in the FDIC, yes, and those that are the independent regulatory authorities of all known securities in this nation and other nations. Yes. Today, I'd like to know the individuals that are employed, yes, as the money managers of those families that I'm going to sue. Yes. And I'd like to know the software that the financial services of this nation and every nation has been using for the last 40 years. Now, let's say you're a family. Well, you don't want to be famous, but there is some knowledge of you, isn't there? Yes. And I don't want to be famous. I never did. But I'm going to want to know who it is that's managing your finances. Because a lot of families, they do not have the mental capability of managing their own money. They have this really trusting relationship with an individual. Yes. That they talk to every 3 or 4 days, and they mention that they hear that this company's doing well or this is a good debt to invest in. Yes. And the money managers of the families where you have that confidence, that faith that it's one of these where you can really trust me. When I say this is a good investment, it is. Yes. See, you don't get to manage money for billionaires unless you're really good. You have to analyze. Yes, you do. You have to look at the profit and losses. You have to have some sort of idea about the management of the various investments. Yes, you do. Now, let's say you're a money manager for one of these billionaire families.